Hello and welcome to News at 10 on NTA News 24. We're broadcasting live on the network service of the NTA. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji.
And I am Ifoma Ojinta. Thanks for joining us, and here are the headlines.
President Buhari engages National Assembly leadership on End SARS protests.
The 5-point demands are properly addressed where legislative intervention will be required. We are ready to move in and deal with such expeditiously to ensure that we don't waste any time.
Osun and Plateau state governments institute judicial panel on police brutality.
Inspector General of Police assures Nigerians on professionalism of new police tactical team.
And NCDC announces 130 new cases of COVID-19 in 8 states and the FCT. President Muhammadu Buhari has formally engaged presiding officers of the National Assembly towards ensuring that the genuine demands of the End SARS protesters are addressed expeditiously.
And the State House correspondent Alamusamba reports that the meeting, however, expressed worry over the accompanying violence to the protests in parts of the country, saying it is time to give the government a chance to deliver on its promises.
The End SARS protest, which entered day 11 in parts of the country, is without doubt a trying moment for Nigeria and indeed its leadership. This is more so because violence has now been introduced to the somewhat peaceful agitation by the youth, indicating that the protesters might have lost control of the initiative. Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila are here to critically analyze the situation with President Muhammadu Buhari and see what can be done urgently towards restoring order. After the meeting, which lasted about 1 hour 40 minutes, both the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, and Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila reassured Nigerians, especially the youth, that President Muhammadu Buhari has their interests at heart and is indeed committed to the sustainable future of the country.
The essence of coming to meet Mr. President is to review the situation and see the roles that the two arms of government should play in ensuring that the demands of the protesters, the 5-point demands, are properly addressed where legislative intervention will be required. We are ready to move in and deal with such expeditiously to ensure that we don't waste any time, so that we address the concerns of our youth. Where the executive role is expected, we are sure that the executive will also expedite action, and we will be watching to ensure that such demands are properly met.
And I can assure you that there is no bigger Democrat than Mr. President. He gave us a listening ear that the same as he's always given Nigerians for the first time in history. Don't forget his background. He accepted absolutely everything that Nigerians asked for. It's the first time in history that, because I've heard this story that, we've had End SARS, 4 times before in our past, and that's what people are saying. And like I say, this is the first time you haven't heard it from Mr. President. You've never heard it from Mr. President. But now he said so. So let us tarry a little while. Give it a couple of weeks and see what happens.
The presiding officers of the National Assembly therefore pleaded with the Nigerian youth to end the protest now in the greater interest of all.
The protests have already yielded the desired results. First of all, they say end SARS. That was the beginning. SARS was ended not by the IGP. SARS was ended by the president himself. The president, President Muhammadu Buhari, made a statement, a presidential statement, and that will be the first time that any president will say end SARS. And SARS has ended. When you try to stop everybody from engaging in their lawful businesses, closing roads to markets and other economic places, we distract the economy of the country, and that is not the best way to go. Other Nigerians have legitimate rights to go on their lawful businesses without let or hindrance, and we cannot have that when the roads are blocked. So we don't want a situation where there will be a degeneration of law and order because somebody is blocked and he feels he must have his way. So we believe that withdrawing from this process at this moment is the right thing to do. Meanwhile, give us the opportunity to deal with matters that we have, as a government, agreed to handle.
I don't want our youth to lose the plot. They've done so well in terms of expressing their grievances. And the important thing is that government has heard you loud and clear. It's unfortunate what happened to the Osun State governor. And this is where, I say we begin to lose the plot. We should not allow people to infiltrate what otherwise is a good cause. For whatever it's worth, trust government in what it has done now. It has ended SARS. Nobody can argue that. SARS is ended. It's apparently a police code anywhere in the world that you don't leave a vacuum. It has to be filled. And that's why they came up with SWAT. It's a complete departure from the way SARS was meant to operate. Let us remain focused. Let us stay on track. And the way to stay on track is to work with government.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Speaker Femi Bajabiamila assured Nigerians that everyone is on the same page in this onerous task of achieving the desired policing with pride, trust, and integrity. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
All right, from Abuja, we move over to southwest Nigeria, Osun State, where the government is to set up a judicial panel of inquiry in line with Vice President Oshibajo's directive to investigate all related cases of abuse and brutality by the disbanded SARS and also investigate the death of 2 protesters in Osogbo on Saturday.
Governor Oyinlola stated this in his statewide broadcast this Sunday, where he appealed for calm. Femi Afariogun reports.
In a statewide broadcast, Governor Oyinlola maintained that the 2 deaths recorded were not during the attack on him. One death, he said, occurred prior to his arrival to address the protesters, while the second death occurred about 5 kilometers from the scene of the protest.
Our investigation revealed that the commando style which which the assailants carry out the attack leaves no one in doubt that it was deliberate and pre-planned. However, not the genuine protesters resorted to violence. And the preliminary investigation further revealed that no live bullet was fired at the rampaging political talks. Not even one canister of tear gas was fired.
He assured the people that his government will continue to protect their lives and property.
We shall be setting up a judicial panel of inquiry in line with the directive of the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to investigate all related cases of abuse and brutality by the disbanded SARS. This panel will also be investigating yesterday's attack.
The suspected hoodlums also attacked shops at Osun Mall, carting away goods worth millions of naira in Osogbo. Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Ondo State's Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has condemned Saturday's attack on the entourage of Governor Gboyega of Osun State in Osogbo, saying protesting youths should be wary of infiltration by hoodlums.
Now, this was a message when he paid a solidarity visit to Governor Oyinlola over his survival from the sinister attack. Joshua Ogunjide has the details.
Governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, condemned the barbaric act of the attack on Governor Oyinlola. He thanked the governor for the critical role he played for his re-election into office.
All of us are supposed to set up a judicial panel of inquiry so that those who have suffered, those who have claims can come and we can be compensated. The government is taking this in very serious. We are serious about it, and we believe that there must be reformation. The police has to be reorientated, just like all of us too.
Osun State Governor Buhari emphasized the exigency of the intervention of the federal government at taking necessary actions to avoid further disruptions.
We don't want to lose any of them, so it's painful that 2 people lost their life, but not in the circumstance of what they've been saying. It could be, yes, 2 people died, but not not relating to or connected to the issue of the governor visiting the venue. I thank the media for understanding and for telling the story as it is.
Earlier on, cabinet members as well as the Osun State House of Assembly members were at the government house to thank God for sparing the life of the governor. There is expectation that a communique will be released in due course as the virtual Governors Forum meeting holds on the NSAS protest. In Osogbo, Joshua Ogujide, NTA News.
And the governor of Plateau State, Simon Bakola Long, has constituted a judicial panel on police brutality and other related extrajudicial killings in Plateau State to be headed by a retired judge of the Plateau State High Court, Justice Philomena Lott, and 6 others. The panel of inquiry is to investigate complaints of police brutality and related extrajudicial killings in Plateau State with a view to delivering justice for all victims of the dissolved Special Anti-Robbery Squad and other police units. This is in line with the recommendation of the National Economic Council for the establishment of state-based judicial panels of inquiry by governors to hear complaints and ensure accountability in the operations of police units in their states. The committee is expected to carry out its assignment within 6 months and submit its report. Meanwhile, the governor has denied allegation that northern governors want the return of the scrapped Special Anti-Robbery Squad. He has claimed that there was no way the northern governors will call for the restoration of an already scrapped SARS as approved by the president and announced by the Inspector General of Police.
Meanwhile, the Coalition for Democracy has urged NSAS protesters in Nigeria to focus on the theme of their campaign of reforming the Nigeria police in order to allow subversive elements hijack the protest. President of the coalition, Comrade Samson Atawodi, who spoke with newsmen in Abuja, said since President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law the Nigeria Police Bill 2020, this is the right time for citizens to push for the implementation of the reforms which formed the original theme of the NSAS protest. He said the new act will enhance professionalism in the force through increased training opportunities, as well as create an enduring cooperation and partnership between the police force and communities in maintaining peace and combating crimes nationwide. Similarly, the Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian youths, Serani, has endorsed the legitimacy of peaceful protests, commended President Buhari for showing exemplary leadership by assuring the nation that the disbandment of SARS, which was the first step towards a comprehensive police reform. The group urged youths to discontinue protests in the interest of the nation.
In the meantime, various groups have called for an end to the ongoing peaceful protests, demanding police reforms for fear of infiltration by rogue elements, as well as to allow governments to respond to the concerns. The calls are compiled in this report.
Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum, Salihu Muhammad Lukman, says the NSAS protest by young people presents an opportunity in light of the 2023 election, urging the youth to occupy leadership positions. The Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian youth, while associating itself with what it terms a patriotic resolve, advocating an end to police brutality and other human rights violations, raises concern about the demonstration being infiltrated by rogue elements if it persists. The group therefore proposes an end to the protest with a view to convening a National Youth Leaders Conference to further deliberate on demands. Sereni equally commends President Muhammadu Buhari for showing exemplary leadership. Meanwhile, the Coalition for Democracy has urged NSAS protesters in Nigeria to focus on the theme of the campaign of reforming the Nigeria police force so as not to allow subversive elements hijack the protest. The president of the coalition, Comrade Samson Atawodi, says since President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law the Nigeria Police Bill 2020, this is the right time for citizens to push for the implementation of the reforms which formed the original theme of the NSAS protests.
All right, and despite the FCT administration ban on any form of street protests in the territory due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the NSAS protest has continued in different parts of the capital city. Ilyasu Onotu Yakubu has update on the situation.
On this day, the protesters were coordinated into syndicates across the territory. From the central area through the Unity Fountain, Airport Road, Lugbe to access the City Gate, and Gwarimpa Galadima access. They march as they move towards the Central Business District, which is the final destination for the day. Attendance at the Unity Fountain, as at late noon, was however low. At the Ministry of Women Affairs, protesters who converged to march towards the Louis Edet House Force headquarters were cordoned off by a detachment of anti-riot police operatives. But they sang, they danced, and they rested. They later left to another location. The Ademola Adetokunbo Ibrahim Babangida Crescent in Wuse 2 provided a free route for another group which occupied the way from the NNPC towers through the Defense College to the International Conference Center. Being a Sunday, the action did not build up heavy traffic, making it easy for motorists to either turn or meander through. In Abuja, Ilyasu Onotu Yakubu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the attention of the Nigerian army has been drawn to news on the social media, insinuating that Exercise Crocodile Smile 6, particularly the cyber warfare component, targets the NSAS protest. A statement by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sagir Musa, says the exercise is an annual event scheduled to commence from the 20th of October to the 31st of December 2020 and has no relationship with any lawful protest. Colonel Sagir notes that Exercise Crocodile Smile is a yearly exercise in the Nigerian Army calendar of forecast of events which traditionally holds from October to December, stressing that the Army has acted professionally since the civil protest started.
All right, you're still watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Still ahead.
Inspector General of Police assures Nigerians on professionalism of new police tactical team.
The recent genuine concerns and agitations by Nigerians about the excessive use of force and in some cases extrajudicial killings and wrongful conduct by men of the Nigerian police force. The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. We also deeply regret the loss of life of the young man in Oyo State during the recent demonstrations. I have directed that the circumstances of his death should be thoroughly investigated. Meanwhile, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of men and women of the police force are hardworking and diligent in performing their duties. The few bad eggs should not be allowed to tarnish the image and reputation of the force.
Welcome you back to the news. Now, the Inspector General of Police IGP Muhammad Adamu has reaffirmed that the new police tactical team will operate within very high professional and ethical standards, rule of law and dictates of best international policing practices. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer DCP Frank Mba says no personnel of the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS will be absorbed into the new tactical team. He notes that officers selected for the training are young, smart and energetic, who have acquired not less than 7 years working experience with clean service records. The IGP seeks the cooperation of citizens in the ongoing development drive for a new and reformed Nigeria Police Force.
The Directorate of Defense Media Operations, DMO, says the Air Task Force of Operation LAFIYA DOLE has neutralized several Islamic States of West African province elements and destroyed their hideouts at Tudun-Wulgo and Tumbungini on the fringes of Lake Chad in Borno State. In a statement, coordinator of the DMO, Major General John Enenche, explains that this was achieved through airstrikes as part of a new subsidiary operation tagged Wotan Tapki, after a series of aerial surveillance missions had indicated that the two locations were being used as staging areas where some ISWAP leaders and their fighters planned and launched attacks. Following this confirmation, the Air Task Force dispatched Nigerian Air Force fighter jets and helicopter gunships to engage the two locations, scoring accurate hits on the target areas, destroying some structures and neutralizing several of the terrorists.
All right, still in Borno State, the Governor, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, has declared Monday, 19th October 2020 as a day for second round of statewide fasting prayers to restore total peace to the state.
The declaration followed separate meetings the governor held with leaders of Muslim and Christian faithful in the states. Mohammed Goni reports.
Professor Babagana Umar appreciated the leadership of both Muslim and Christian faithful and the teeming populace in the state for their continuous support and prayers since assumption of office. Also noted improvement in the security situation since the first fasting and prayer session held. He therefore expressed the need to intensify fasting and prayers for an end to Boko Haram and other criminalities and for enduring peace to Borno, Northeast and the country as a whole.
Both the Muslim faithful as well as the Christians have answered my call for prayers and for fastings, for which we have also noticed it has been shown in televisions, social media and others.
The governor, who stressed the need to resettle the IDPs in their ancestral homes to enable them return to their means of livelihood, also noted hunger and starvation among the IDPs and those in the host communities, adding that dependence on food aid is not sustainable as donor fatigue has already set in. Chief Imam of Borno, Laisu Ibrahim Ahmed, and the state chairman of Khan, Bishop William Naga, appreciated the governor for his passion and commitment to addressing the lingering security challenges, assuring him of readiness of all for prayers and fasting for peace to reign in the state and the country as a whole.
Believing that things are turning into better in our states, is seeing the zeal and the courage you have to bring peace back to Borno.
It will be recalled that Governor Babagana Umar had in February this year declared a statewide fasting and prayers for an end to the Boko Haram crisis, which has been bedeviling the state in the last 11 years. In Maiduguri, Mohammed Goni, NTA News.
And away from security matters, Minister of Transportation Chibike Rotimi Amici says 1st of January 2021 has been set for the inauguration of the Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line. He made this known at the monthly inspection tour. Oyinlola Kalowoka reports.
Excitement in the air for the people of Lagos, Ogun and Oyo states with the rail line coming alive. The 156 kilometers Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line is 80% completed, with the laying of tracks completed. The 10 major and minor stations along the corridor are at various stages of completion. At every stop for inspection, Minister of Transportation Chibike Rotimi Amici was impressed with the pace of work.
The only two stations we are not too happy with them will be Topalanto and Abeokuta. So out of 10 or so, you can see the huge improvement in the rest 8.
At the Ebute Meta mega station, which is expected to be one of the largest stations in West Africa, with a holding capacity of 6,000 passengers daily, the minister disclosed that President Buhari is expected to inaugurate the rail line by January 1st, 2021.
1st of January, President is coming here.
This is achievable from what I have seen thus far. We have the smaller stations that are going to be completed at the end of this October.
The Lagos-Ibadan rail line, when completed, will be instrumental to further growth in commercial activities in towns along the corridor.
It's quite impressive from the last time we came here. There has been improved progress here.
By November, we'll be able to commence train so that people will enjoy the benefit of having the Ibadan-Lagos train.
And to, in fact, fast-track the congestion in the port.
The Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line is connecting 3 states of the western parts of the country. Okorocha, NTA News.
African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat to establish centers of excellence in several regions in Africa. Let's hear more on Business News.
Harnessing the 1.2 billion market size in Africa is the main target for the floating of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to boost intra-Africa trade. The Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, Wamkele Mene, says the Secretariat is working towards establishing centers of excellence across Africa to boost production capacity in the continent and enhance Africa's readiness for a global competitiveness through high-tech product manufacturing and robust regional value chain development.
So what we envisage is that we will sit together, policymakers, along with government officials and the private sector. And we will have to collectively decide which value chains do we want to focus in and have a very, very clear work plan for implementation of those value chains. It could be automobiles, it could be agro-processing, it could be any other area that is labor intensive and that will create jobs. And that is a discussion that we're going to have to investors so that we decentralize investment.
Meanwhile, the capital market inched up by 1.1% at the close of market Friday, 16th October 2020. Some analysts predict mixed sentiments in the market for this week.
I also expect to see more of this mixed performance. Okay, that is the nature of the market. And the market goes up, it will still come down. So it's a case of whatever goes up must come down. We saw it last week, and it's going. When it goes down, there is also the likelihood that it will come up. It doesn't stay in one position, for too long.
With Business News, I'm Chimubi.
The news at 10 on NTA News 24 is reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Still ahead.
NCDC announces 113 new cases of COVID-19 in 8 states and the FCT.